Good afternoon, good day, my good people. This is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. I'm your host, Glenn Glass, but affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime. And our guest today is none other than the incomparable Miss Sanedria Potter. Sanedria is I would like to say, well-known real estate appraiser. And she's going to be talking to us about a number of things that are related to values as it relates to real estate. So we are still hanging out to make sure she's going to be able to get connected. She'll be joining us here in just a few minutes, but hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. What happened to our camera? Why is it so close? We gotta get that back some. And I think we're gonna have her jump in here in just a second. Let me just make sure all is well. Hang tight. Let me go ahead and give you all something to take a look at. I believe she's coming in. I'm gonna make sure she gets in. Hang tight for just a second. I think she's with us. Okay. Can you hear me? All right. I think she is going to be joining us. Hang tight just a second. Sanedria, are you with me? There she is. Always
Hi,
working,
Glenn.
huh? You
How
always
are
working.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing today? Can you hear me okay? I think we're
Always. Can you see me? My screen looks funny.
okay. There we
Hi,
go.
Glenn.
How you doing today? I think you're a little delayed. Can you see me and hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? I know I see you, but I want to make sure you can hear
Hi,
me.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How's everything? Can you hear me okay? I think we might be delayed a little.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, 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 yes. Seems like you're breaking up just a little bit. Um, can you hear me okay? I want to make sure because I know this is. I'm actually traveling. I'm in a hotel, so I'm hoping that my connection stays solid and it
There's definitely a
stays.
delay here.
Oh, okay, okay. How about going out and coming right back in to see if that'll help with anything? Because it looks like your connection is choppy a little bit. Let's see if we can.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So while we get her connected again, I want to definitely invite those of you that will be joining us today to chime in, answer your questions. Listen, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, of course, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, don't forget to follow me at Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime on IG and Real Life Real Estate Investing on IG as well. Um, I'll be sharing tons of information. I'm actually here in Detroit where I'm doing some investing, I'm doing some teaching, some coaching, different things going on here in Detroit as of now. I'll be traveling back to Atlanta in a couple days, but I came to share some information with some folks here that I'm excited to be able to share with you as well. I think we have Sanedria back in with us just a second. Uh, how's that? Can you, okay, we're gonna make it work. It look like you're still a little bit choppy, and let me just make sure. Okay, can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, okay. All right. I think I hope that our connection is in sync because it sounds like I'm a little bit behind or a little delayed on your side. But we're gonna make this thing work because I know you have some information that you definitely want to share with us about the market, the real estate market, and how values have gone absolutely crazy, or the people have gone crazy about the values. One of the other. um, so, Sanedra, if you wouldn't mind, share with the folks who you are and give them a little bit of background. I'll tell them a little bit about what you do. Give them a little bit of background on who you are and some of the things, the different projects and things you have going on. Uh-oh, I think she's froze.
All right. Well, my name is Sanedria Potter. Thank you for having me, Glenn. I'm Sanedria Potter. My company is Real Appraisal.
That goes with it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you, but it's like you're a little bit choppy. I don't know what's happening with that. Um, I don't know what's happening with that. Yeah. Can you see me and can you hear me okay? Because it looks like you're freezing every couple of seconds. Yeah, your connection's looking a little bit.
I can hear you, but your screen is
Yeah,
your
it's
screen
like
is
you're
I do
my
hear
my
you.
my screen is frozen too. Oh wow. Okay. So it looks like um, maybe both of us. I don't know if it's me or if it's you or if it's both of us. Um, because you're right. I'm actually looking on my screen and I don't see any movement on my part either. I can see on the streaming platform that I'm moving. Let me just see if there's any other. Oh, I was determined to try and get this done, even though I know I'm not at my regular location. Let me just see.
Yeah.
Location. Okay. So it looks like I'm streaming okay on my side, but
Is your live frozen too?
I think your yeah, I think you're frozen because it looks like I'm streaming on my side to the different platforms, but it doesn't look like you're streaming because I think you're going in and out. Um, are you on your mobile device? You're on a computer, or how are you connected? Oh yeah, it's and then we've lost your sound. You might have to try and come back out. Let's see, is that? It looks like I'm moving. And then we've lost your sound. Okay, yeah, yeah. You might. So okay, let me try it here. Yeah, it we your stream is freezing. Yeah, because we lost your sound, we lost everything on your side. Uh, yeah, I can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you because your connection is going in and out.
I'm on the laptop. Yeah, StreamYard said it would do it on the laptop, so I'm on the laptop.
Okay, okay. I think we're gonna have her come back out and come back in. um, all right. So while we get her to join us again, hello Angela. Thank you for joining us. Angela from LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us, Miss Jones. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is the values and comps and those types of things, and then I want to get into talking about how we're still, or we should still be uh, finding our after repair values. A lot of times, I've seen many investors and or wholesalers speculate the values. They speculate the market. They speculate those types of things. And it's been kind of an interesting situation these last year or so with values and how they've just gone all over the place and how the values have increased primarily because a lot of people have been buying over market price, over value. And it's helped in many ways. But there are some ways that it could be not so helpful. And I want to give our resident expert to talk to us about how that could potentially be the case. Charlie Fowler, how are you, sir? Charlie, we got to connect again. There's some things we still have to do. I think we have Sanedria. I think she is connected again with us.
Hi, how is that?
Oh my goodness, that's so much better. That is so much better. That is so much better. So we'll start again. How are you today?
I'm extraordinary. Thank you. How are you?
I am well. I'm well. Thank you so very much for joining me today.
Thank you
I
for
said,
having me.
I said we got to make this work because what you have to share with us is very, 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 very important. And I don't want people to miss the importance of what you have to share with us in terms of what's happening in our crazy real estate market today. But let's start again. Let's tell the folks who you are, tell them what you do, and let's talk about kind of a few of the projects that you have going on.
Okay. Well, my name is Sanedria Potter. I'm a certified real estate appraiser. I started in the early 2000s flipping houses, got a really bad deal, and decided to go back and get educated. And I initially went to appraisal school just to be an informed investor, and it turned into a career. And this is my 21st year providing accurate values to the community. So, so I'm an appraiser. I'm also a realtor and a filmmaker. So I just love getting on these platforms and just sharing as much information as I can about the industry and letting people know that it is an industry that's worth getting into. The Biden administration just put out an article that stated that less than 5% of the appraisal industry is are people of color. So we're definitely underrepresented in this industry. So I love sharing information about it. Like I fell into it you don't really hear people saying they want to grow up and be an appraiser. So just,
Right.
just wanting people to know about the industry and that it's definitely a viable industry and that it survives any market, whether it's an up or down seller market, buyer market. They still need to know the value of their properties.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a point that's very, very, very important that people definitely need to know. It is certainly what my friends like to say, recession proof.
Exactly.
Because I mean, like you said, in any market, we'll definitely need to know the values because a lot of times, even now, what's happening is a lot of speculation. Like people are thinking, like, oh, if I buy this property, even though I paid too much for it, in 6 months or 3 months or however long it takes me to fix it up to sell it, then in that time, I'll make twice as much as I thought I was going to make up for me not buying it right in the first place.
Well, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up
Hmm.
because whatever reason is making people willing to pay 30, 40, $50,000 over the list price, over
Hmm.
the appraised value, whatever that anticipation is, whatever that forecasting is that they're doing, as appraisers, we don't forecast. We have to go by
Absolutely.
what has sold on that day, which is called the effective date of the appraisal. So on that effective date, we're going by what has sold in the market as of that day. We don't do any forecasting. And so that's why that disparity in the value is getting wider and wider because people are being more and more willing to pay well over what a property is currently worth because they're willing to forecast and anticipate what could happen in the future, and we don't forecast.
Mm. Can you tell us how dangerous that could potentially be? How much time do we have?
um I mean, I would say there's some interesting stuff happening in the market.
Okay.
People
You
are
really,
speculating wildly,
yeah.
from it's gonna crash to it's gonna keep going up forever. So,
Mm.
so there's two wide spectrums, and it's causing some interesting shifts in the market. It's definitely causing disparity in what we come up with as a value versus what people are willing to pay or what people think their homes are worth. So, one of the things I like to always do is make sure that people understand what an appraisal is and what it entails and what we're looking for when we go out there. The appraisal is an estimate of value. It's an opinion of value from an appraiser, and how we determine that is we look at your property and look at your amenities, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what is the condition of it, what is the age of it. Once we know those things about your property, then we go out and try to find properties that have those similar features that have sold recently and that are in proximity to your property. We
Tell
have
us
to
what
have a
a.
minimum of three. We can have as many as we need to support our value, but we have to have a minimum of three. So value is not based on one sale. So a lot of people be like, well, this house sold for such and such, so I know I can get that value, but value is not just based on one sale. We look at a collective amount of sales. We like to do what's called bracketing. We try to find something that's the same as yours, something inferior to yours, and something superior to yours. And that's called
Mm.
bracketing. So we can see what the market reaction was to your features, something better than your features, and something less than your features. So I just really like people to understand like how we derive at the value and what we're looking for when we go out there, so they can try to have a better understanding, because just because your neighbor house sold for this and yours is bigger than his don't mean that yours is going to sell for that. And so
Mm.
people always say, well, his sold for this and mine is bigger, so I know mine is 500,000. Like, there's a lot of
Right,
variables, and it
right.
doesn't really get worked out that way.
Talking about those Zillow values,
The
which will
Zestimate.
definitely does
Well, the
estimate. Right?
Zestimates give you an idea. I mean, to be fair to Zillow, it could possibly give you an idea, but it's almost how like Credit Karma is not your real credit score. Zillow is
Mm.
not your real value, but it
Right.
could give you an idea, but it's hit or miss, and that's a
Mm.
big transaction to make based on Zestimates and free data. That's a huge, you know, decision to make based on data that is estimate, like a Zestimate.
Right.
But it
Right.
could be hit or miss. If you're okay with making decisions with hit or miss data, some people
And
do. I know some people that make their decisions based on that's how they do their due diligence, and you know.
That's another thing. And I want to talk about that. But you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned something about recent, what's sold recently, and then you mentioned proximity.
Right.
So, from an appraiser, an experienced 20 plus year experienced appraiser, can you explain to the folks what do you mean by proximity, like how close that is,
Hmm.
and what works in proximity and
Okay.
what works
Yeah.
in terms of recent? Like, what do you mean recent?
Gotcha. And most people that have spent any time around the real estate industry have heard that appraisers have 12 months and 1 mile. So everyone
Mhm.
has heard those terms. And we do, but we want what's closest in proximity. So even though we have a mile, I start at 0.25. I start at a quarter of a mile because I want the
Mhm.
closest. Whatever's the closest is the most comparable because it's most likely to have the same type of external influences. So if the
Absolutely.
property is located on a busy road, you need other comparables that also have that external influence of being on a busy road so that we can determine if there's a market reaction to a house that's on a busy road versus a house that's on an interior street in a subdivision. So it's very important to compare apples to apples. As far as the mileage, if I don't find anything in a quarter of a mile, then I go out a half a mile, then 3/4 of a mile, then finally to a mile. So yes, we have a mile, but we start the closest in first. Same thing with the date and how recent the sale was, especially in this market and how fast it's changing. You want the sales to be
Mm,
as recent as possible. So we do have a year, but we start at 90 days. If we don't find anything
mm,
in 90 days, then we go out 6 months, then 9 months, and then finally a year if it's just something that's super complex or there's very limited sales. So we
mm.
want the closest, most recent, most comparable. So we're looking at, like I said, bedroom counts, bathroom counts, the condition of it, what style of house. If it's a split foyer or a split level, it's very important to compare it to other split foyers and split levels because of the way that upper level and the lower level is made on the split foyer houses. It's very important to compare it to other split levels. So
Mm.
that's what we're looking for as far as recent and in proximity, because we know we have some areas in Atlanta that you can be within a mile but be in a whole different type of neighborhood, different
Mm.
type of school district,
Wow.
so the location is super important.
Wow. Wow. So, and you made a great point there. You said within a mile, but be in a whole different. You can be in a whole different zip code,
Hmm.
city, some
Even
places
county.
county.
Yeah.
Right.
We have stuff that's really close on the county line. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people make the error of pulling by the radius, but not deep diving to see that yes, this is what it's within a mile, but it's in a different county. Is it,
Hmm.
it's still um, in the area, but you've crossed the county line. So you want to be
Right.
really careful because you can think you got solid comps in that area, but if you hadn't looked deeper to see that it's in a mile, but it's in another county, then now you don't pull the whole wrong comps. You know,
Mm. Right.
so it's real important to know how to pull if you're pulling comps and doing your research, knowing how to pull and make sure you're comparing apples to apples and not just looking at addresses and sales prices, because it can look like, oh, the numbers are here, it's in the area, but if you deep dive a little bit more, yours is built in 1920 and those houses were built in the 2000s. you know
Right.
um
Right.
so you want to make sure it's apples to apples and not just look at addresses and sales prices that's in that area. See if they're similar
Mm.
in age. Make sure yours is not 1,000 square feet and they're 2,000 square feet. Like when,
Mm.
when my values are different and people submit to me their CMAs and what they've pulled, the thing that I find the most is that they haven't looked. They pull a general search and they looking at these sales, but they haven't looked deeper to see, well, these are twice the size of the square footage, or these are much older or much newer built than this
Mm.
one. I've even had commercial properties be on there like this is residential. So
Wow.
there's a lot of variables that we have to look at to determine if these are truly comparable. And then
Mm.
once we determine that they're comparable, then we do a series of plus and minus adjustments all the way down each sale. And then finally, from those bottom numbers, then we come up with what that subject property is worth. So
Mm.
there's quite a bit that goes into it. So the more people understand, they can pull better CMAs. One of the most egregious errors that I saw an agent do was the house had 5 bedrooms in the house and 2 additional bedrooms in the basement. And he was trying to find comps for a 7-bedroom house, and he couldn't find any. So he went outside the subdivision and found a 7-bedroom comps that were in the $1 million range. But the highest sale in the subdivision was in the $600,000 range. So he was almost $500,000 off in what he had those people house listed at. And when I looked into his CMA, he was looking for 7-bedroom houses. This house was a 5-bedroom with a finished basement with 2 additional bedrooms. He shouldn't have been looking or comparing it to 7-bedroom houses. It's right. So what's in that basement goes on its own separate line. It's not added together to say it's a 7-bedroom house. You have to separate it out, and it's a 5-bedroom house with a finished basement with 2 additional bedrooms. So him just making that small mistake made him price these people house in the $1 million range when it was worth about $600,000. And he was like, I don't know how I'm going to go back and tell them that. Do you know what I'm saying? So really understanding how to pull your comps and pull your CMAs and what we're comparing your property to will help with your due diligence.
Wow. So with something like that, I mean, because I get that question quite often. How does the basement calculate for, like, what's considered a bedroom in a basement as it relates to, value for an appraisal?
So what determines if it's lower level? Because there's some houses like the split levels and split foyers where it's a lower level, but it's still above grade. If you know how the split foyers are made, they're raised up. So if any portion of it is below grade, any portion. So you know how sometimes some houses from the front it look like a ranch, but when you go around the back you can see the whole basement.
Right.
So the back of it is above grade, but the front of it you can't even see it. So that would still be considered basement. If any portion of it is below grade, then it's considered basement. Split levels and split foyers are the only style of house where we have the option of adding it all together or separating it out for an upper level and a lower level. So that's why it's super important when you have a split foyer or split level as much as possible to use other comps that are also split levels or split foyers. But for any other type of house, if any part of it is below grade, it's considered basement. And a lot of people think they don't get credit for it. It's like because they think it's a 7-bedroom, like in the last scenario. It's not that you don't get credit for it, but it is separated out. And the above grade has its own line and the basement has its own line. So you get credit for it, but it's not added together.
Right. So just for another example, for when you mentioned split foyer and split level, just for the sake of the audience that may not be aware of what those are, because I know that some of the audiences in different areas of the country, whereby as Detroit, where I am, most people have no idea what split level, split foyer is because most of everything is either ranch or the basement. You got a lot of those scenarios here in Detroit. So when you say split foyer, that's like when you go in the house, can you explain that?
So a split foyer is just how it sounds. So when you go in the house, you're standing on a little foyer area and you can go either up or down. A split level is when you walk in the house, you're on the main level that usually has your kitchen, dining room, and living room. And then you have the option from that main level to go up a few steps and you have your bedrooms and baths. And then you can also go down a few steps and you have usually like a family room, your garage, sometimes another bedroom, a fireplace. So that's a split level. So split foyer, you come in standing on a foyer, you can go up or down. A split level, you come in on a main level with the option to go up or down from that main level.
Got it. And now in
some places call it a bi-level.
Oh,
okay. You may hear that term as well, bi-level or tri-level.
Got it. Okay. So in terms of how value is calculated for a property like that, can you help us understand if it's if it's a split foyer, right? Are the bedrooms and or the square footage that is below the threshold, is that counted in the same square footage or
yes.
living space as well? Okay,
yes. Good. So that's what I was explaining. The split foyer and split level style homes are the only style homes where you have the option of adding it all together. Or you can separate it out as the upper level and lower level. but that's the
Got it.
only style where you have the option to do it either way. The
Mm,
only rule to it is whichever way you decide to do it, you got to do all the comps the same way. So if you decide to add it all together in the subject in the grid, then each split level comp you use, you have to add all theirs together as well. If you decide to break it down as upper level and lower level, then you got to do all the split level comps the same way. But that's
mhm.
the only style house where you can choose to add it all together or separate it out. Any other style house, if it's basement, it's going to be separated out.
Got it. Got it. Right. Because, you know, there was a time where we were made to understand that anything that's below the threshold doesn't necessarily get counted in the square footage.
That's
Uh,
true.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Okay. But you said you have the option
Split
of
level
adding.
style. That's the
Got it.
style that gives you the option
Okay.
to add them
Got
all
it.
together. Any other style house, it is separated out on the basement line.
Good. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Okay. All right. And so now, what do you see in your opinion as an expert appraiser? What do you see that's happened over the last year? Why people bought more houses during COVID than they bought houses in however long it's been? Oh, did we lose her? I think we lost her. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pose the question, but I want any of you that are watching with us, go ahead and put your questions in as well so we can get your questions answered as well. I know I'm a pretty good interviewer, but I want to make sure the questions that I'm asking are questions that you can get some benefit from and that you can also learn from as well. Uh, all right, so we're gonna bring there you go. Okay. Listen,
So I had to switch to my cell phone because the laptop was acting up, and somebody
yeah.
called my phone, and then I couldn't hear you anymore. So I don't know how to make people stop calling real appraisals.
Listen, don't ever try to make people stop calling.
Oh my goodness, the phone does not stop ringing.
Right, right, right. Well, that's a good problem to have, except for which if you're on a live interview on your phone.
What were you asking me?
The question I was asking is over the last year and a half or so, what do you see has changed mostly about the values in properties? And we're going to talk about some of the things that you look for in terms of finishes when you get inside. But what do you think has changed mostly about the values of properties that you've appraised?
Um, I definitely think that we went from a market where it was typical to see sellers paying closing costs. It was typical to see, houses on the market for 30 days, 45 days.
Mm,
Um, it was typical to see open houses. And
mm,
now you put a house on the market, it's under contract in a couple of days. So now if you see a house that's been on the market for 10, 15 days, the agents are saying, hey, what's wrong with this property? Was it under contract? Like, is something wrong with it? Like, so now 10 days on the market is looking really strange to people. And
mm,
they're questioning, is something wrong with the house? Is there something we should be concerned about if it's not under contract in 2 or 3 days? So I'm seeing that. I'm seeing very little closing costs being paid. I'm alarmed
mm.
at the amount of waiving that I'm seeing. Like they waiving everything, due diligence, not no
Yeah.
finance contingency, no appraisal contingency, no due diligence, no nothing like they're waiving everything just to win these offers. So it's super interesting. That's the
Mm,
word I'll
mm.
use.
Right,
That
right.
what they're doing and what they're willing to pay, and without regard to what it's actually worth, all the forecasting that they're willing to do. When none of us can time the market, none of us, we can all offer our opinions. People are saying everything from it's going to crash to it's going to just retract and correct itself to it's like I said. Some people say it's just going to keep going up forever.
Mm,
And it's really not a way to time the market or know what's going on, but there's some interesting stuff that's happening, and it's interesting to see what's being
right.
allowed to happen as far as being to be able to pay so much over what a property is worth right now in this market. So
Yeah. And the thing about what I've seen is, or how I kind of, have my speculation is that we have no real historical data of things happening the way that they're happening now, right? in terms of people paying so much more over market price and more over asking price. And now we're seeing the trend in interest rates go up. So we'll see what adjustments happen as a result of that. Um, but even in that, I don't know that there's going to be any. Well, there probably some correction and leveling back out to where it once was, or something that looks like that. But as far as a crash, I don't foresee anything like that happening.
Yeah. I
It,
think we all offer our opinions on it. None of us really know, what
this is true.
exactly what happened, but I kind of tend
Mm,
to agree with you. Like, I don't think that it will crash per se, like going back to 40, $50,000 houses in the West
right.
End.
Yeah. That's right.
But but I think a correction or natural retraction, um, I think is so I wouldn't say crash, but I would probably say more correction, more retraction. But that still could be 20, 30%. You know,
Yes.
not
Yes.
not not back to a crash level, but
Hmm.
enough to make some of these people upside down if the ones that are willing to pay extremely over.
Right.
Like, I've
Right.
seen
Right.
some extremely high offers over the list price, and it's like,
Hmm.
really?
Hmm.
Or I've seen people offer 50,000 over and be told that they got offers higher than that. Like,
I've seen that
what?
as well. Yeah.
So it's some interesting stuff going on, and whatever they're forecasting or anticipating, I hope it works out for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So let's I know we're talking about values and things like that, and from an appraiser perspective, but let's put your realtor hat on for just a second. From a realtor perspective, do you see? Okay, I got a couple. I got to figure out how to answer one question, two questions with one question. How to ask two questions with one question. I'm hearing that. Okay, this I was speaking to. I guess you would call him a millennial of sorts. Well, not me, really a millennial. What's younger than a millennial?
Generation Z.
The Generation Z. Okay, and they were saying that their generation their generation are not buying houses. They're more looking towards renting. Um, do you see that happening more and more from that perspective? Like people like, the generation that's in their early 20s that are looking at more renting than even the option or considering buying?
I don't know. The young people that I'm around are, real estate is the talk of the day. Like, they
Hmm.
see the little television shows and everybody wants to flip houses. So I've
Hmm.
not seen to where they've been preferring to rent. Most of the young people I know are homeowners or are anticipating being a homeowner. So I hadn't seen the ones that are preferring to rent.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I haven't seen that too much on my end. Because if the young people are around me, I'm talking to them about real estate. So that's
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's how it came about. I was having a conversation with a young person about real estate, and they was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna buy a house." Now they did mention something about building a house, but they were sticking to their guns about not buying a house to live in because most young people, I guess the story was most young people couldn't afford it, and I'm like, yeah, not the young people that I'm really familiar with because the most of them are
not either.
online doing all sorts of stuff. So, but yeah, I was just wondering, like from that perspective, were you seeing or hearing anything, that's relative to that? Um,
Yeah.
now the other
This thing is
realtor
live
question I
too.
want.
It's crazy.
uh
You still can hear?
Okay, you can't hear me.
That's my phone ring. I can't hear. So can they see me?
I
They
can
gonna
I
see
can
me,
see
won't they?
you. I can see you. You can't hear me. Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can try something. Okay. This is live. I was gonna say live TV, but this is live streaming. So these things happen. So she's gonna go out and come back in, and that's what happens. Unfortunately, when people are on their phones. Shout out to Chrissy B. Shout out to Ron Dimmock. Thank you all for joining me today. Don't forget to share this, like it, share it, subscribe. And while she's out, I'm actually going to do something real quick. And if you all would hang tight with me, I was supposed to do this a long time ago, but I'm going to do it now. Hang real tight.
Hey, what's happening, folks? Many experts will tell you that you can get into the business of real estate investing with no money and no credit. And the question I ask is, if you bought into that, how's that working out for you? Right? My name is Glenn Glasper, and I've been in this business for 23 years. And what I find is most of the people that get into this business with that type of mentality, only 0.001% of them have any level of success, or let alone close a deal. Most of the people that become successful understand the importance of leveraging credit and leveraging money, as well as leveraging time, and not just doing one deal. If that's you, I created a video on how you can become successful in real estate investing. Now, this is not for the people who don't want to invest any money or don't want to invest any credit. This is not for the easy crowd. This is for the people who are open to investing and open to leveraging their resources. If that's you, go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll certainly see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link. Did you hear me? I said click on the link. See you on the other side.
And we are back.
Every time my phone rings, I can't hear you after I decline the call. So my assistant just put it on Do Not Disturb for me.
Okay.
I can do an appraisal, but I can't work alive. I'm just.
I know that's right. Hey, listen, I used to tell people I am not a talk show host. I never intended to be, never planned to be. This actually comes of years of practicing and failing and doing it over and over again. So, we're here, and that's what happens. We just got to learn this stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we were talking about well, the question I was asking is, have you seen the days on the market change significantly? I know before we were talking about, the overall way things have been happening is 1-2 days on the market, or even some of them before they go to market, they're already at offers or multiple offers. How much of that has changed in the last, we'll say, month or 2 months, especially since the announcement of the interest rates changing? Have you seen anything change significantly in the days on market?
Before, like I said, you would see everything was 1 or 2 days. As soon as it come out, it was going under contract. I am starting to see back on the markets where it's been under contract and something happened and had to come back. And I have started to see longer days on the market, but I'm also still seeing the 1 and 2 days as well. But in that same market, some of them are selling in 1 or 2 days, and some of them are staying on the market for 20, 30 days. So I'm seeing the same thing. And even the same thing with sales prices. In the same area, I'm seeing similar houses that some of them are going for the top end of the range and some of them going for the low end of the range. And they're very similar properties in the same market.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, there's a wide range of sales prices in quite a few areas. And when an area is truly appreciating, all of it would be going in the same direction. You wouldn't have, a similar house going for $250 and another one going for $400 in the same area, same street. Like it's a lot of interesting stuff.
And these are the things that we all should be paying attention to. Again, not anything unusual. Like people are like, oh, interest rates are going to go to 4 and 5%. I'm like, man, I remember when we were buying houses when interest rates were 12 and 13 and 14 and 15%. I think my first house, was like 18.99%. So, 3 or 4 or 5%, okay. But the intention of buying houses now, the way we do is for profit anyway. So as long as your profit is more than the interest rate, you shouldn't be falling out about it. That's the way I look at it. So back to the appraisal questions. What type of finishes as it relates to comparisons, do you look for when you go into a house? Like, does it have to have granite countertops or marble or quartz, or like what's the theme now versus before? And as it relates to even fixtures, light fixtures, are they gold? Are they chrome? Are they brushed nickel? Like, what's happening in the market now that's trending the values upwards?
So whether or not a particular finish or a particular amenity is a value adding thing and how much it adds is very location specific. Um,
Mm,
have
okay.
if you have granite countertops and marble floors and stainless steel appliances, but you're in an area where everyone has, um, you know, carpet and vinyl floors, and but you got all this marble and granite, and you could be considered an over improvement for the area.
Over improvement.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever your finishes are, you want them to be in line with what the predominant finish or amenity is for that area. Same thing with bedroom count, square footage. You want to be in line with what is the predominant for that area. You don't want to be the biggest and best, because you may not get dollar for dollar value for your feature or your amenity because you're not in line with what's predominant for that area.
Mm,
Whether or not it has a value, whether or not a pool has value or it's a liability, is very location specific. Whether or not parking storage is something that will give you additional value, it depends. If everybody has a garage, then it'll be looked at differently. If you're in Grant Park and you have parking storage where it's rare, and most people only have
mm,
street parking. So it just depends on whether or not a particular feature has value. It's very location specific.
okay, okay. So if I were in, let's say Decatur, where most of the houses will say now have granite countertops and they have brushed metal um, light fixtures and doorknobs and all these other things. If I go in and add my quartz countertops and my gold plated fixtures, um, would there be anything, or I guess the marble floor or whatever the case may be, or tile up, the upgraded tile floors, would there be anything if I, because some of us now are savvy enough, we'll call it, to leave some documentation for the appraisal when they come, so they can know that how much money we spent. Is there anything in those things that would sway your opinion of value based on the additional things that I've over improved?
So I would definitely say sway is not a good word.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I apologize. I had to make sure.
Not
Look, you're
sway.
right. Gotta use those words wisely.
But
That's why you're the professional and I'm not.
it's good for us to know everything that you've done to the property. If it's been updated or renovated, we have condition ratings in the appraisal. I don't know if you've taken the time to look at those, but those C ratings tell us, C1 is new construction and C2 is a property that's been fully renovated to the point of almost new. C3 is a property that's had some updates and is in good condition, but not fully renovated. C4 is well maintained. So we give it a condition rating and then find other ones that are in that same condition rating. So done a full renovation with granite and stainless steel, then you'll be more of a C2. But if you just done some updates and you haven't replaced all the mechanicals, you just did some updates and stuff, then you'd be more of a C3. If you've not done any updates but it's been a well-maintained property, you'd be more of a C4. If it's a fixer-upper, you'd be a C5 or a C6. And so we put them in those categories. So if you have a property that has some updates, but you didn't go all out with the granite and stuff, then you'd be compared with kind of more C3 properties. If you went in there and did all your mechanicals over, your granite, your appliances, your heating and air, your plumbing, your fixtures, like if you went in and did a full renovation, then you'd be compared to more C2 properties.
Mm, okay, okay. But the over improvement is not
If you're
anything.
old, and it ain't gonna be any of those conditions.
Okay.
It'll be the condition that area supports. So
Got
if
it.
you have marble and all of that, and everybody else has granite, but they are renovated, then your property with all the over improvements could still be considered that C2, but it's going to get the value of what other C2s in that area are going for, not necessarily the value that you would expect because you got marble and you flew your tiles in from Italy and all that stuff. You know, or the best one I've seen in my 20-some years, the guy had a fully automated home automation system, and he had a big remote that was about this big that controlled the whole house, and he spent $100,000, and he could operate every single thing from that remote. But it was a great selling feature, but it didn't add a lot of contributory value to the house, not in regards to the $100,000 he paid to get it installed, because it's an over improvement for the area. Other homes in the area were selling without having this $100,000 home automation system. So it would be a great thing for him to, as a selling feature, to him to tell a potential buyer. But from the appraisal standpoint, it may not have a lot of contributory value.
Wow. Wow. So I guess his probable situation was he sold it faster. So maybe he did make money, more money than he would have made had he not spent too much money, because it probably would have taken him a little longer to sell it. I mean, who knows?
But it definitely didn't take him $100,000 over.
Not at all.
Dollar increase in value for house, nowhere near it.
Right, right. And you know, I was being facetious in the thinking, what goes on in the mind of someone that spends that kind of money, and there is no other comparable property to compare it to. What makes you think that you're going to get such more significant value out of doing something like that? I mean, yeah, I've seen those types of deals.
Some people get a little bit confused and think that if they make a something monstrous or whatever, that we will just go and find the next thing that's monstrous like that. That's not necessarily what'll happen. In some cases, it can be considered an over improvement for the area. It's not that we just gonna find something as monstrous as you decide to make this house. If you make it a 6 or 7 bedroom in an area where everybody is 3-2s, we're not just gonna go and find another 7 bedroom house no matter where we got to go and find it, because we're going to be in a whole different type of neighborhood. We're going to dominant home in this area is 3 bedroom 2 baths, and you went over and beyond the predominant value. So I mean the predominant amenities in this area. But some people think that we would just go, they could build anything they want, and an appraiser would just go find something that is the similar to that, no matter how far they got to go out.
Wow. One last question, and then I want to talk to you about how people can learn how to do appraisals. When you're looking for value and you have to go, you know, even if you're within the quarter of a mile, right? And that quarter of a mile is across a major highway. How is that considered, or is it considered at all?
So what we would have to do is, first of all, we have to talk about why we crossed the major roadway. If we cross it, we got to talk about why. So if our property is south of 20 and all comps as north of 20, we have to reconcile that and say, why did we cross this major roadway? So if there are no sales on the same side of that major roadway as a subject, then we have to really support using only sales across that road. If we have sales, we got to have a minimum of 3. So for instance, if we have sales that are on the same side of that major roadway, but say we only have 1 or 2, but we need a 3rd one or a 4th one, and we cross over and they're in the same price range, and it could be okay. It could be something that you could reconcile. But sometimes major roadways divide value as well. Like homes south of 20 could sell in a different price point than homes north of 20. So if those homes south of 20 haven't shown support for that value, you can't just cross over a major roadway and use sales that are in a different area that have shown a different price point. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So if there are none and you have to cross the roadway, you have to take care to really reconcile and support having to cross over that major roadway, and to really ensure that you're comparing apples to apples and that these are the same types of neighborhoods, same type of school districts, that would generate what we're looking for when we have to do that. When we have to go outside the immediate market area, we're looking for things that would generally attract the same type of buyer.
Mm,
So,
right, right.
so that's taking into consideration neighborhoods, school districts, external influences. Is it on a busy road? Is it close to railroad tracks? So you have noise influence. So there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration.
And those are very, very, very important. And doing, most things that, people teach about doing real estate investing, we, well, I won't say we because I learned doing comps from appraisers. Most times folks don't understand the value of digging that deep into finding the solid values because they're just learning if it's close and it's got a number and it's sold, then that's a good comp, right? As opposed to that comp, this comp is on a double lane highway, and then it crosses into a different subdivision, so most people don't look at the details of those types of things. So it's very important that you mention those things. So how does one become an appraiser, and do you teach people how to become appraisers?
So every state is different. So I speak of is for Georgia. I had to take a 90-hour course. It's self-paced. They give you a year to take it. It took me about 2 weeks. My son took 6 months, but it's self-paced. You have a year to take it. When I did it 21 years ago, it was offered in person. I think most of the classes now are online. Um,
Wow.
Once you finish that 90-hour course, you have to find a certified appraiser to do your field hours under. And you also have to have a college degree. And
Wow.
those two changes were made after the market crash. They made a lot of changes in the appraisal industry. Um, and so you have to find a certified appraiser to do your field hours under, and to become a certified appraiser, which is the highest level of residential appraising. It's about a 2-year training commitment. So you have to find a certified appraiser that is willing to train you for the 2 years. They allow us to have 3 trainees at a time. So I do have 3 trainees, and I have an extensive waiting list because from what I'm hearing, it's very difficult for people to find certified appraisers that are willing to mentor them and take on that 2-year commitment. Um,
Wow.
a
Wow.
very long training process. And, most appraisers are, one man, one woman shops that
Mhm.
are able to, work alone and do pretty well for themselves. So um, they choose to train, choose not to train, but I've just heard that it's very difficult to find. You used to be able to do your hours under a licensed appraiser, but one of the changes they also made is that they moved it up to the mentor has to be certified, which is the highest level of residential.
Mm. Wow.
There,
Wow.
there are several levels. Like when you first take the class, there's the first level, the registered trainee level, then there's the license level, and then there's certified residential, which is the highest level of residential appraising, and then certified general is commercial.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Do you do any commercial at all?
I've done commercial appraisals before. I don't specifically specialize in commercial appraisals. My main focus is residential.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, listen, we're coming up on our time, but I do definitely want to give you an opportunity to share with the folks how do they get in contact with real appraisers, and um, is now you said you have an extensive waiting list, so there's no way that people can get. I mean, I guess they can be added to the waiting list of becoming a someone that you can train, or are you taking on any additional people for to even be added to the waiting list?
Well, the training program is 2 years, so like the waiting list is literally years long.
Oh, okay, okay.
Since the Biden administration is talking about they want to do something about diversity and appraising, I'm hoping that they'll be able to work with what we're trying to do as far as helping people in our community even first know about the industry and then um, get them trained to be able to enter this industry. So I'm working on some things that could allow me to do more training outside of that 3 that they allow us to have. So I
Mhm.
would definitely say stay in contact with Real Appraisals. We're on Instagram. It's at Real Appraisals. The company is called Real Appraisals, and the website is realappraising.com.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
And I also wanted to say, Glenn, I know people think about appraisals in the traditional sense of purchases and refinances or flipping houses or whatever, but there's a lot of different reasons that you may need to know the value of your home, and we do offer services for that. So if you're going through a divorce and there's property involved, if you're going in a bankruptcy, if you're doing a bankruptcy and you need to know if you're able to keep the property, they need to know the value of it to determine if you're able to keep it in the bankruptcy. If you think your property taxes are too high, part of the appeal process is getting a certified appraisal. If you need an estate appraisal, someone passes away and leaves several siblings of property, I can do an estate appraisal. Find out the value of these properties before you just give them away once, you inherit them and they're left to you. We can do that as well. So there's a lot of different reasons that a person may need to know the price of their home that's outside of a purchase or a refinance. So just wanted to let them know we're here and we're available to provide accurate values. So thank you for having me.
Listen, very, 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 very good information. Very good stuff. As always, thank you for sharing. It is always a pleasure. Tell us about, real quick before you go, tell us about your movie projects and how they can check those out.
Thank you so much, Glenn. So I'm also a filmmaker. That is my passion. I'm a writer, director, producer. I currently have 2 films that are on Amazon Prime right now. One is One is a family comedy. It's called It's Major. It has Tawanda Braxton, Arnez J, Ebony Steele. It has music from the SOS Band. It has new music from Eric from the OJs. And I produced it and directed it, and it's on Amazon Prime. The second one has Clifton Powell in it. I co-wrote and produced that one. It's called Fatima's Revenge, and that one's available on Amazon Prime as well. And we're actually going to start casting on our next project the second week in April. So definitely look out for that. So thank you, Glenn.
No, thank you. I have actually seen both of those movies, and both are very good.
Thank
you. I didn't get a chance to make it to the premiere when you premiered them, some time ago. But I have seen the movie since then. And, I say, Ava DuVernay, watch out. She's coming.
Now, when the next premieres, I'll give you well advance notice. And I also wanted to say, I love what you're doing. I'm super happy and proud of what you're doing. I see your videos and I see your we passing the knowledge, each one. So I'm all about that.
Definitely. Well, thank you, my sister. I appreciate you joining me today. I know we were back and forth. That's my team. They're doing all this crazy stuff, getting in contact with people to be on the show. So I let them do what they do. Hopefully they didn't harass you too much. But listen, thank you for, spending this time with us today. And I want to make sure folks know that you are the go-to person for appraisals, especially in the Atlanta metro area. So certainly reach out to her. And again, thank you all for joining us today. This has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, where we bring you real life real estate solutions. Thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful day. Thank you again, Sanedria, for joining me.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.